The Chicago Bulls were one of the worst teams in the entire NBA last season. They struggled with guard play, didn't have much depth, and couldn't play defense to save their lives. But one shining player was Lauri Markkanen. The 7-footer from Finland was one of the best rookies in the entire NBA and used his size and lights-out shooting to provide the bright spot for the Chicago Bulls. Coming into this season though, the Bulls have a lot more support and talent on their roster. They have added Wendell Carter Junior, Lavine will be completely healthy, and Jabari Parker will be competing for shots and trying to prove himself as well for a long-term deal. Some may think that this might mean Lauri will take a back seat. This video will examine that question and see if Lauri will be the first, second, or third option on this squad. It will then take a look at what the future holds for Lauri Markkanen and just how good the Chicago Bulls squad can be this season and going forward. The first thing that is important to note for the big man from Finland is the size of him. He has significantly bulked up over the course of the offseason without getting too big. It looks as though he's managed to put on a lot of lean muscle instead of just pure bulk. This is really important as when tall guys put too much muscle on, it can at times lead to more injury issues. For this reason, I much prefer it when players put weight on slowly over a long period of time rather than all at once. Markanen has reported that he's put on 14 pounds, and this is an amount I'd be very happy with, especially when compared to the 25 to 30 that some players report that they put on. This extra weight will help Lauri in two main ways. He'll be able to defend bigger guys at the 5 and be a more effective post-up player. Lauri already has an incredible post game for someone who is only 21. He can shoot over both shoulders, has a decent hook shot over both ways, and has incredibly nifty footwork for someone who is 7 foot tall. Due to his height and his jump shot, teams have to put one of their biggest players on Markanen. Otherwise, he could simply face up a smaller guy and torture them with a series of jab steps before finally shooting over the top of them. You see a lot of modern 7-footers adding this shot to their arsenal after witnessing the success of Kevin Durant, Dirk Nowitzki, and Hakeem Olajuwon in this area. But while Lauri is fantastic at getting this shot off against the giant big man of the NBA, he struggles to back them down and effectively get his post moves off against them. Post-up game is all rhythm and comfort. These players have practiced these moves over and over again and ingrained them into their muscle memory. If unguarded, they'll knock them down around 80 to 90% of the time, showing the difference between NBA players and an average person like me shooting 30% alone in a gym. When translating these shots and comfort levels into a game, it depends on how comfortable you are with the defender on you. Look at the difference when someone like Sean Livingston, when he posts up on a 6-foot point guard, compared to when someone like Paul George guards him. Livingston can simply rise up over the top of the 6-foot guy, and it's like he isn't there, and he's alone in the gym. But when the length, speed, and strength of a bigger guy is involved, it can make it into a more difficult shot. Their presence is felt. For Lauri last year, the strength of bigger guys was far greater than he was used to. When he would back them down, they wouldn't fall back, and he would simply bounce off of them. This would have thrown his rhythm and made it more difficult to hit fadeaway and any of his first step moves. It also makes the pivot less effective as defender is already there to contest the shot instead of having to leap forward if they want to bite on the pump fakes. This season I expect Markanen to be more effective in the post due to the added weight and strength and also due to simply being more comfortable playing in the NBA and against NBA level defenders. And this post game is an area I would like to see the Bulls use more this season with Lauri. Markanen only averaged 12 shots a game last season, and I think he should have had the ball in his hands way more. He was clearly the best defensive player on the team, but instead they let Justin Holiday put shot after shot up. This may have been to tank and to ensure they got a top pick, but if they want to win this season, they need to get Lauri more involved in the game. Posting him up just once a quarter is an easy way to do this. Many will argue that the post-up is dead and is an ineffective shot, but as I have said before, it still has a place in the NBA today for two reasons. The first being that big men can't just drive off the perimeter and create their shot that way. If a guard like James Harden or Westbrook hasn't had a shot in a while, they can simply take the ball, call for a screen, and attack the defense in a pick and roll or in isolation. This allows them to easily get into rhythm after not shooting for a while by putting up a simple shot off the perimeter. For a guy like Markanen, he isn't going to attack teams and defenses this way multiple times a game. He'd simply turn the ball over way too much. But by giving him the ball in the post, you let him gain rhythm, shoot his shot, and feel like he is still part of the offense and needs to remain active. This is especially important for young shooting bigs who can at times struggle to get open for their shots and feel disconnected from the rhythm of the game. The other important reason is that in the playoffs, the game will inevitably slow down and you will need ways to score in isolation. We have seen Golden State and the Cavaliers turn to Durant and LeBron in the postseason in these circumstances, and Houston and OKC also went to isolation basketball. But perhaps the best comparison for Markanen is Dirk Nowitzki in his famous 2011 finals run. Whenever Dallas needed a bucket, they would dump the ball to Dirk in the post, and he would go to absolute work on his opponent. Based on his incredible ability to make these shots, Dallas managed to make it all the way to the finals and eventually upset LeBron and the Miami Heat, and they won the championship. So by giving Lauri these shots, you were going to help him develop the game and the comfort level to be able to execute these shots in the playoffs in 3 or 4 years down the track when Chicago could be contending for a championship. One thing I'm excited by in regards to the posting up is the arrival of Wendell Carter Junior. In the Summer League games, Carter Junior made some fantastic passes from the high post to the low post and vice versa. He's also athletic enough to share the floor with Markanen, and the two could have some fantastic high-low entries and make the most of the fact that most teams don't have 2 7-footers to guard them. Both of these guys are very high IQ players and will be able to run some nice plays where one of them is on the elbow and the other pins that player and gets under the rim for the easy over-the-top pass. They can also both shoot threes and will therefore be able to get out of each other's ways while in the paint and play a 4-out and 1-in system at times. The ability to have 2 big guys on the court and be able to play a spread offense or a 2 big offense depending on what lineup the opposition trots out is immensely flexible and shows great promise for the two playing together. It will allow them to abuse mismatches and create open shots and high percentage plays against most lineups that teams trot out. I also really like Carter Jr. as the perfect defensive foil for Markanen. We saw him do this with Bagley at Duke. Wendell would take the best big men and hound them in the paint or out on the perimeter if this was where their skill set lay. Most teams in the NBA really have one truly offensive talented player at the 4 or the 5 spot. I expect Carter Jr. to take that player and allow Markanen to guard the other one. This isn't to say that Lauri is a bad defender. He actually surprised me, and I think that he will develop into a solid positional defender over the course of his career. It is just that Carter Jr. is a better defender. Wendell seems to thrive on this end, and being locked in on that end of the court usually leads to him playing better on the offensive side of the basketball as well. And Lauri is clearly the more talented offensive player, so it makes sense to allow him to focus his energy on that side of the court, while Wendell focuses his on the defensive end. As already discussed, Markanen has the beginnings of a fabulous postgame, but what makes him truly special is his mobility and his shooting. Markanen is an absolute marksman from all over the court. Whether it is a mid-range shot, a 3-pointer, or a little pull-up shot from 3 feet, he'll hit them with regularity and looks effortless in doing so. Part of this comes from Lauri's flawless shooting mechanics. He has an excellent dip, a smooth rise up as he jumps into his shot, and a picture-perfect form and release that is in front of his face. All of this is combined with his 7-foot frame, makes for a shot that is both accurate and hard to stop. The most important part of this for the Bulls is his ability to hit threes. In the modern NBA, threes are one of the most important shots for the extra points they provide and the spacing that they create on the court. Markanen shot 36% from deep last season on 6 attempts a game and proved that he was capable of creating 3-pointers and making them. The good news also is that as the season went along, he got even better at shooting threes, and in the last 6 games of the season, he shot 50% from deep. I wouldn't put it past the huge man from Finland to one day shoot 40% from 3 and even higher in a season, and be an extreme threat from deep. The other relevant stat in this area was that 97% of Markkanen's threes were assisted last year. This is fantastic, as it usually means that the player is capable of getting open and that teammates see this and hit them with the ball. It also means that he isn't simply sitting behind the 3-point line and taking bad 3-point shots with his defender draped all over him. Markanen gets a lot of these 3-point shots through pick and pops with his teammates. He sets great screens and will fake a roll a lot of the time before dipping back out to the 3-point line. This fake roll that Markanen and a few other big men use is fantastic, as opposing big men will sometimes check to see where their opponent is moving before adjusting their coverage. As a result, you can trick them into playing you for the roll while they hedge onto the guard and you slip out for a wide open 3-pointer. Markanen got a lot of open shots doing this last season, and he did so predominantly playing with Chris Dunn, Holiday, and David Nwaba as his guards. Now, I'm not saying these players are bad. I really quite like Chris Dunn as a player and think he'll blossom into a fantastic defensive guard that sets up his teammates in good positions. and Holiday and Nwaba are also players that could develop into solid bench pieces but aren't necessarily starters. But all of these players were the main ball handlers in the pick and pop and roll with Markanen and wouldn't have exactly required a lot of defensive attention. This meant that teams would cover Markanen way more than they would against somebody like Zach Lavine. And with the return of Zach Lavine and the further development of Dunn, these guys will require more attention when driving off Lauri Markkanen's screens, and it will allow Markanen to get open in an even easier fashion. This will be even more prominent from the arrival of Jabari Parker and, as mentioned, Wendell Carter Junior. The Bulls will be able to put out a lineup that can shoot at all 5 positions and has offensive threats at all 5 also. Defenses won't simply be able to rotate off their man and double Markanen or rotate onto him quickly. And if they do, Lauri is a capable passer who will simply hit Parker, Carter, Dunn or Lavine on the 3-point line or cut into the basket. This enhanced spacing also means I think we'll see more of Markkanen's driving game. While his dribble isn't perfect, Lauri is actually quite capable of putting the ball on the floor and driving to the hoop quickly and without turning the ball over. I don't think that the Bulls will ask him to do this all the time, but the odd possession with a Markanen drive wouldn't go astray. And while the Bulls need to balance winning with Lauri's development, I expect and want him to get at least 16 shots a game. Lauri has the potential to be the most efficient scorer on this team, and I think the Bulls would be mad not to work him into the offense as much as possible. Plus, they don't know if Jabari Parker is the long-term star of the Bulls, and I think they believe that Markanen is that long-term star. And I believe this too. Lauri could seriously develop into one of the best offensive 7-footers in the game. His shooting hasn't been seen in a player this big since perhaps Nowitzki himself, and if developed properly, we could see Lauri draining fadeaway shots on his way to a championship run in 5 years. But for this season, it is about development, and getting Lauri the ball on the post and on the 3-point line as much as possible and letting the talented big man from Finland do his thing. And I think the Chicago Bulls might surprise a few people this season, as the additions of Wendell Carter Junior and Jabari Parker are a big deal. And Zach Lavine coming back will be a hell of an exciting thing and should open up the lanes for Lauri Markkanen. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications as well. And let me know in the comments what you think of Lauri and the Chicago Bulls.